Hello everyone. Tonight I think I just want to do a quick watercolor card. So I'm just going to use one of my bigger block stamps. This one just has to have a bunch of cool hand-drawn flowers on it. So I've already got my cardstock pre-cut to the size that I want for my card, where I can just emboss it and get going on the watercolor. So I'm going to ink this up with some Versamark ink, which again is the glue pad, and just make sure that I get a really good coat of the glue on there, especially since this is more of a detailed stamp. I want to be sure that I get every piece of the stamp and the petals and the flower portion of the stamp. And then I'm just going to stick my cardstock right over the top, this side I think. And some portions of the stamp are even going to hang off of the card, which is okay. Sometimes I think it gives it more of a continuous look if the whole image isn't on the card. So I'm just going to make sure that that's on there pretty good. So I think I got a pretty good coat, and then I'm just going to use some white embossing powder to go over my image. And on this one, you can use white, you can use clear, you can use whatever color you want. This is just what I had on my table in front of me, so this is what I'm going to use. And then kind of tap off the excess. Usually I do this in clear, so I'm kind of excited to see what it looks like in the white with the watercolor on there. So just dump this back into my container. And then I'm going to get a baby wipe and just clean that off my table. And then I'm going to go ahead and heat set this with my heat tool, and then I'll be back to start the watercoloring. Okay, so for those of you who might not be familiar with embossing, whatever part is embossed with the powder and then heat set is going to resist the ink. Now, since I embossed it with a white embossing powder on top of a white piece of cardstock, it'll kind of look like it's fading into the background. So the watercolors that I'm going to use today are just a set of koi watercolors, and this is the travel set, which I really like to take on the road with me in the truck whenever we go on long trips, because it's the perfect size to where I can still work while traveling. So I just have I'm going to go back and forth between the water brushes and then a regular paintbrush, just because I know that the flower part I want to color with the ink, but then the background I'm going to mix a bunch of blues together. So I think I'm going to start with the petals, just because those are more of a smaller portion, to see how that does. I think I'm going to go in here with my water brush first and start on that. And I just like to squeeze some water out into my palette so that it gets the watercolors wet before I use them, just so that when I'm ready to paint with them, they're good and ready to go. Sometimes I think that helps it spread a little bit easier if they're already wet and moist. So again, it's whatever your preference is. So I think today I'm going to do a bunch of blues and purples on this card. So let's go ahead and get started and see what we come up with. I really like that dark green color. And then I also like this lime green color, which I'm just taking a bit of that and kind of putting it off to the side, and I'm kind of mixing the two with my water brush on my palette to make my own kind of green. So I'm going to go in with this green and just kind of lay down some color on the leaves. And I'm going to go ahead and zoom in so you guys can see more of what I'm doing. Like that. So I'm just going to be mixing a bunch of colors on the leaves to give it more of a natural look. And then if you get outside the lines, don't worry about it, because it kind of adds to the whimsy of the card. You know, I've tried to, it's hard not to be so perfect when you're trying to do watercolors and think that you have to do all this work and have it be perfect and just right. And although most of us will probably like it to be that way, sometimes it's nicer to have it look more natural. You know, because in nature, leaves aren't perfect. In nature, flowers aren't perfect. They always have little bits of imperfections in them. And so I'm just going in with some lime green, one of the lighter greens, and adding some highlights and accents to my leaves. One thing that I do like about the embossing, though, is that it kind of gives you a guideline. You know, it's kind of like bumper bowling. For those of you that have done bumper bowling, you pull out the bumpers and there's no way you can fail. You're gonna, you know, you're guaranteed to at least hit one pin. So that's why I kind of like this for watercoloring too, because you're guaranteed to get, you know, a pretty look without much effort. So I've just kind of got the base of my leaves done, and you know, you can tell that I went outside the lines on some of them, which is totally okay with me, because I'm going to go back in on the background, and the background's going to be a bunch of blues and stuff, and so blues and greens blend pretty well together. And so you can kind of see close up that this is what I have for my leaves. And so now I'm going to go in with some purples and blues to do my flowers. Oh, actually, I missed some leaves up here. I'm just going to spread some, spread some color on those real quick, and then we'll get to the flowers. Okay, so I think that was the last of the leaves. I'm going to hit that with the heat tool for a second. And now I'm going to go in and work on the flowers. So I'm not sure what kind of flowers these are. I don't know whether they're poppies or what. But I'm just kind of going to do my own thing, mix some reds with the purples, and get a nice, cool, blended look in the flower. And that's another thing that's really nice about watercolor, is that especially if you emboss an image and then you go over it with watercolor, you know, half your work is already done for you. So again, the only portion that you really have to worry about is the outer line, you just want to make sure you don't go outside that one, just because that is the edge of the flower. Whatever kind of flower this is, it's really cool looking. If somebody knows what kind of flower this is, put it in the comments below. That way we'll all kind of know. And you can kind of see how the embossing powder is resisting the watercolor that I'm putting down on the image. So I want the bigger flowers to have more purple in them. So I think I'm going to do more of a purple center and then mix my red. And these are all kind of blended together. So, I mean, you don't have to be perfect with the colors that you're laying down. I'm just kind of putting them on there. So that's all there is to this card. Pretty much just putting on some color and then, you know, letting it go. There's that. So I'm going to go ahead and do the background of the card, which I'm going to switch to a different brush. But before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and heat set what I have on here, and then we'll go into the background of the card and finish it up. Okay, so I dried that just a little bit, and what I'm going to do for the background is I'm just going to wet the background. And remember that the ink that we've already laid down with the watercolor will reactivate because it's watercolor. So you just kind of have to be careful of where you want to lay down your color. And then sometimes I think helping to wet the background helps with that. So I'm just going to mix in a bunch of different blues on mine for this sky. And then just try to stay outside of the color that you've already put down for the flowers. Now don't forget, make sure you have enough water on your brush to get it to spread, because you don't want it to be such a flat looking card. You want to make sure that you have the color on there with it, so that it can blend easier together. You can kind of see I'm going in between three different kinds of blues, three different colors of blues to get the background, the color that I'm looking for. So again, just keep your brush pretty wet. And if you like, you can wet the background like this. And then you can go in with additional colors and then have those blend together. Again, guys, this is pretty easy. Simply just wetting the brush, putting some color on the brush, and then letting it flow together. And I'm just doing a variation of colors to make it look a little bit more natural. Some more darker blue over here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and finish up this background. I'm going to heat set it, and then I'll be back to mount this to the back of the card. Okay, so I just have some really cool, like, it's white ribbon, but it has an iridescent trim in the center. So I think I'm just going to wrap that around the back of my card. Or not the back of the card, but the front of the card. And just tape it down with some good old Scotch tape. And make sure I have it So right about there. Okay, and then I'm going to take another piece of my ribbon, just cut off a piece, and then I'm going to tie a bow. Like so. Just as another extra added embellishment on the card, just kind of tie it all together. So tie that down, put that into place, trim off the edges. See how cute that looks? It's cute, simple, just like so. It really brings out the embossing part that we did the resist on with the embossing powder. So I was going to go with a color, but I decided to do the white to kind of make that pop. So I have to decide whether I want, I had cut out a piece of purple cardstock that I was thinking of mounting that to the base, just to bring out that purple in the flowers, which I think I'm going to go ahead and glue that down because I like the way that looks. So I just have a tape runner here. And since I did watercolor, I'm going to use a lot of adhesive because the paper that I stamped this on wasn't a watercolor cardstock. It's just what I had, so that's what I used. And then I'm going to stick that down and kind of press it into the back. And then to pop that up, I'm going to use some Scotch foam tape on the back of the purple for some extra dimension on the back of the card. That, if you can hear, is my cat. She's telling me it's dinner time. So I'm going to have to hurry up with this card and get her fed. But as you can see, this card really didn't take any time at all. So this is going to be a top folding card. And I'm going to just mount that to the back with our foam tape. Give that some extra added dimension. And I think maybe I'll add some white sequins, maybe at the top, just for another extra embellishment. So I have these Doodlebug white sequins. I'll have to put a link to these in the video. I'm not sure of their exact name. But it's kind of a combination of the iridescent, the pearl, the white, and a silver all in one. So I kind of liked that. And maybe putting those, I kind of like the shimmery ones for this card. Maybe doing a few and then we'll glue these down with some glossy accents. Hopefully my bottle isn't clogged. And this you don't need very much to glue down some sequins, so just a little dab of the glossy accents will do. And then I have my pick-me-up tool that I'm going to use to pick up the sequins and place them on my card. Let me zoom out and make sure you can see this. Wrong way. So just take that, run it through there, use my tool. Also, one thing I like about this tool is it kind of helps you keep your hands out of the glue so your fingers aren't sticky with the glossy accents. So that's it. We got those all glued down, and that's the card for today. So just cute, simple watercolor card. This could be a Valentine's Day card if you wanted it to just add a cute little sentiment down there at the bottom. But that's all we have for today. So thank you for liking and subscribing to my videos. If you did like this video but you're not a current subscriber, make sure that you give us a thumbs up and click the subscribe button down on the lower portion of the video. I will include a list of all the supplies that I used today. But that's all I have for now, so we will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.